So, after podcasting for a year now, every week I've posted a podcast on all the podcast platforms and also did my own editing and producing and everything. This is what I've learned after 100 podcast episodes, both solo and interview style. And I'm going to share what I've learned that hopefully you could get something out of it. That if you're about to start a podcast, if you're thinking about starting one, and what I've learned. All right, let's get into it. So, number one, it's a time commitment. If you don't have at least 1 to 2 hours every day to work on your podcast, be it editing, be it reaching out for interviews to people that you're interested in, actually podcasting, like if you're, let's say you book every day, Monday through Friday, you need to set time, have some sort of organization to block out 1 to 2 to 3 hours maybe. Scheduling. So if you still work a 9 to 5, you have to plan accordingly. Like, are you going to do it early in the morning? Are you going to do it on your days off? And then promoting it online via social media. So if you are somebody that hates social media, you have to learn how to use it if you want to promote your podcast. So that's the biggest thing for me. I spend I would say on average, at least 20 hours a week. On average. Which is completely possible to still work a 9 to 5, a full-time job or a part-time job if you're thinking about starting a podcast. So it's totally possible. And if you have extra money, you could hire editors if you don't feel like learning it. I learned it. I learned editing, very basic editing, basic B-roll cuts, stuff like that. But if you have extra money, you could just hire somebody and it'll save you a lot of time. Next, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. I got into podcasting because I loved listening to podcasts. And once I actually started podcasting, I actually fell in love with it. I could do this literally forever. I love having deep conversations. I love making an impact in the world, even if it just impacts one person in a positive way. Like if I'm making this video and you, whoever's watching, listening, my usual views get like 10 to 20. Sometimes I get 100 views on YouTube. Sometimes I get 50 downloads across all the podcast platforms. But the few listeners, it's meaningful. It's meaningful to me to create content that could impact somebody in a positive way, because I know I've needed it in the past and still need it every day. I watch content that can try to uplift me or motivate me or push me towards my goals. So that's one of the reasons why I love it, as well as just I love having deep conversations, 1 to 2 to maybe even 3 hour conversations that could really just help anybody. Maybe it doesn't even have to help anybody. Maybe they just want to listen to it because they want to get to know me or the guest or whatever. So you gotta love it. And before you start, maybe it's just a passion project, or like me, I have big lavish goals of reaching at least 1 million subscribers in my lifetime before I die with my podcast on YouTube. And when you think long term, you you already go into it somewhat committed. So if you think, where can I be in 5, 10 years if I just keep doing this? And when you have those bigger goals and long-term goals, you're gonna end up staying committed subconsciously almost. To me, it's like I see the 10-year goal. My 10-year goal is millions of subscribers, at least 1 to 2 million. So I have to see myself continuously staying committed to the craft of podcasting. Next, you have to have the right intentions and expectations. Why are you podcasting, and what do you expect of it in return? Honestly, I'm still figuring it out. I mean, my intentions, like I said earlier, is to be able to impact people because that's meaningful for me. And the expectations, you kind of have to let go of the expectations, because you may be posting and you may be doing all the right things, but you're just not lucky. Some people literally just get lucky. They post one thing and it goes viral. I'm reaching 300 pieces of content I've uploaded since I started podcasting. So 1 year, 300 pieces of content. That's because podcasting is, you can repurpose it so much. You have 1 hour of content, then you can make 5-minute clips, then you can make 3 short reels or whatever. So every piece of content or every podcast can make like 5 to maybe even 10, but my average is about 5 pieces of content per podcast episode. So when you go into it and you're posting online and you're not getting any views, I mean, to me, I remembered this quote, and I pinned it on my threads. As a content creator once said, those who were meant to be reached will be reached. Remember that whenever you get discouraged creating content. And when you focus on virality, it takes away from the purpose and your intentions in the first place, because then you're so stuck on the algorithm, and then you become a slave of the algorithm. Oh, what will the algorithm like? And the big argument with that is, oh, the algorithm is just the people. But sometimes it's what you're trying to promote. And if you're trying to cater to the algorithm with all these high-speed edits and superficial moments, it's not going to be sustainable. You have to keep clarity on your intentions and don't have super high expectations. Your expectations should be to just show up every day. Show up, do what you intend to do, remember your mission. That's something that I always try to, before every podcast, I always try to have a meditation or get in the frame of mind that, what do I intend with this? What is the purpose? And then I go back to my mission. Is this aligning with my mission? And the mission of this podcast, if you're listening or if you're watching, is always going to be the same, no matter how big I get, or if I don't grow, which that's highly unlikely because I'm going to keep growing and I refuse to quit. But the purpose is for whoever listens to spread more purpose, to live a life more passionately and more peacefully in their everyday lives. So no matter what you do, I want to spread this purpose, to find your purpose. And it doesn't have to be lavish. To live a more passionately life, meaning just doing what you love, and to live a life of more peace, letting go of all the toxic crap I know I've had in the past and still deal with on occasion. So, yeah. And finally, what is the purpose? like I was just talking about, what is the purpose of your podcast? Why are you starting it? I know for me, I personally would love to eventually just make a living off of it. That's my goal, to do something that I actually love doing and make a living off of it. Not so much as a business, but just kind of like a lifestyle thing. Imagine if you could do something that you love and get paid for it. And imagine if it served a greater purpose. So that's a win-win. So ask yourself, like I do every day and every time I do a podcast, what is the purpose of it? Do you just want to make people laugh? Is it for entertainment? Do you have a bigger mission like I do that just wants to impact people positively, to create a net positive in the world before I croak? So that's it. That's all I have. After 100 podcast episodes and thousands of more to come, that's my plan. That's all I have, and that's what I've learned. So I hope this year and next year, for the new year, because today is New Year's Eve, whatever goals you have, stay committed to it. And usually for me, whenever I'm not committed to something, it's usually a sign that I'm not as passionate about it. Maybe you have shiny object syndrome like I had. Usually when you have shiny object syndrome, you're trying to grab for something that you don't necessarily find meaning in. So I encourage you, maybe try a lot of things. Try out things, see what works, see what doesn't. And whatever you are more aligned with and more passionate about, try that out for at least a year, at least 6 months before you try something new again. You got to give yourself a chance to succeed. Some people get lucky, and some people just put their head down and grind for years, and then they have a 10-year or 5 to 10 year, maybe even 20-year overnight success. And with that, as always, everybody, subscribe if you haven't already. Stay curious. Never give up on yourself. You got this. Peace.